Okay, hello everyone. My name is Miles Cope, and I'm here today because I was in a trench accident, and which left me paralyzed. And specifically here today because I'm a workers' comp doctor now, and Sam was my patient. So he put me up to this, and I'm hoping it can, be effective, telling my story, sharing my story with you guys. Not the easiest thing in the world to do, to talk about, the day that you got paralyzed and going through all that tragedy. So, bear with me, A little bit about me. I grew up in construction. I grew up in excavation. My dad had started an excavation company, I think when he was still in high school. I actually dropped out of high school. And so it's really, all I grew up doing. Spent my life in the dirt, in the ditches. And I had an older brother. He was mainly the operator, he was usually the guy on the excavator. I was the guy on the shovel, doing all the hard labor. But right here's a picture of me when I was just a kid out on a job site. That's me and a general contractor named George. He was really a nice guy. We were shooting grade there. I probably was. Can you guys hear me all right? Okay. I was probably only 5 or 6 in that picture there. This is just a picture of one of our excavators. At the time, I think it was a bigger excavator that we were running, but, basically, this was in 2007, and what happened was it was on February 27th, 2007, and had been a long, cold winter, but this was the second warm day after a long, cold winter, and the ground was pretty melty. Where we were digging was further up the hill from where things looked melty. And the ground looked very, very stable. We didn't have a trench box, but, we had it stair-stepped. The dimensions of the stair-steps looked good to me. I don't remember specifically what they were, but, it felt like they were about 4 by 4. I don't know if that's the correct OSHA standard these days, but things looked very stable to me. And we were laying sanitary sewer for a campground. And I had just gotten through belling up a piece of pipe and getting it level with the laser. Was in a crouching position, coming up from a crouching position, and just got hit really hard, really hard. And from that moment on, it was sort of chaos. My brother was there, 2 other workers, and everybody was running around looking for something to do, but nobody really knew what to do. I remember yelling at my brother to pull the dirt off of me. It was a big chunk of clay that fell on me. They had tried to pull it off by hand and breaker bar, and I'd yelled at him to use the excavator, and at first that's what he was going to try to do. He brought the bucket down, but against his better judgment, he used his better judgment and didn't do that. And so I was just kind of stuck there. Had dirt up to here. Had a shattered arm, blood coming out of my mouth, and couldn't breathe. When the dirt hit me, it broke my back, broke 5 ribs, broke my humerus here. There was another guy in the ditch with me. His name was Cody. He was probably about 6 feet from me, and he didn't get hit at all. As a matter of fact, the amount of dirt that fell on me was about a front backhoe bucket full of dirt, probably about a yard full of dirt. Just from looking at it, it didn't look like much, being around dirt all the time. The front backhoe bucket didn't seem like that much, but it was a lot of dirt. It was very heavy. My brother, he was a big guy. The other guy that was working with us was a big guy. They couldn't get it off. They were using breaker bar, and I was just yelling at them the whole time to do something, and I ended up being in the ditch for probably 45 minutes to an hour before they got it off. And like I say, when something like that happens, it's really just really chaos. People, you don't know what to do. And probably looking back, I don't know what more could have been done, but definitely felt like I was in that ditch for too long. As a matter of fact, at some point, I had my friend, like I said, there was another guy in there, and when I got pushed up against the ditch wall like this, that's how I broke my arm here. And my friend come up, and we kind of trued me up a little bit, and he stayed right there with me. And so, I was very lucky to have him. He was holding me like this, we were close. And, at some point, I remember asking him, I grew up this was in Kentucky, so we always ride around with a rifle in the car, just in case there's something to shoot, And I had asked him, if any more were to follow me, I said, please shoot me. And like a good friend, he said he would. But I think that just shows the amount of desperation that was there. I really wanted to get out of it, and I just couldn't. This is a picture of my arm. I couldn't find a lot of pictures from the hospital of all the trauma, but that was my arm. It was just dangling. It just shattered from here. This is a picture of me in rehab, learning how to live again. Like I say, I'm paralyzed from the waist down now. And so, I was in the rehab hospital for about 3 months, just learning how to do normal everyday activities, how to, use the wheelchair, how to pee again, how to poop again. All those things are different from me now. I'm very, very different from all you guys. Another picture of me in rehab, just learning how to sit. I think this was probably me standing for the first time. One thing when you get paralyzed, my legs right here, they're still kind of big, but they're shrunken down now. But you watch your muscles shrink all the way down. It's very, very tough to watch your body go through that. So this is a picture of the girl I was with at the time, the girl I was dating. I'd been with her for 7 years, and she was really instrumental in helping me get through this injury. Matter of fact, we ended up getting married after the injury. This is my friend Cody. He was the guy in the ditch with me, the guy who risked his life to make sure I was okay. He stayed down there with me. He never got out. This is a picture of the house me and my wife had bought after about a year after I was paralyzed. And we bought this about the same time I was starting medical school. So I had been accepted into medical school before the accident. And luckily, they allowed me to postpone my admission for a year. So, within that 1 year, I was paralyzed, got married, bought this house, and was ready to start medical school. You can see all the dandelions in the yard there. That house was kind of a wreck inside and out when I got it, but we put a lot of work into it and turned that into the best looking yard on the street, I thought. Brought in some topsoil and had a guy spread it by hand. I couldn't believe how good of a job he had done. I thought there would have needed to be a machine to spread it, but I didn't really understand how he could do such a good job. But it turns out he was a meth addict and had some performance enhancers, This is the bathroom addition that we had done so that I could go use the bathroom, and I had that's a roll-in shower there, and it was really a nice setup we had. Put down hardwood flooring all throughout the house, and here's a picture. Not the proudest moment of my life here. My wife had ended up leaving me. After you get paralyzed, everything's different. And the relationship just didn't work out. And I think this is me dismantling the house a little bit, taking down the pictures. I was probably 7 or 8 beers deep here and 3 or 4 Ambien deep. My buddy had come over to help me, and I don't know if he was just documenting this, the madness or what, but I remember falling out of my chair, 5 or 6 times that night. But then I went on and started medical school. It was tough. It was tough being alone, in my new body and new life. There's a huge learning curve when you're have an injury like this. Like I say, you have to learn how to do everything again. So, all I can say is it was a new life. There's a huge learning curve when you're have an injury like this. Like I say, you have to learn how to do everything again. So, all I can say is it was a stressful time and a tough time. I ended up, I had to sell the old house, ended up building a new house. This was very small, probably 800, less than 1,000 square feet, but I designed it to, accommodate the wheelchair. It was a slab house. Yeah, very hard to find accessible housing. You guys wouldn't believe how hard it is. So, a lot of times your best deal is to build something. This is just a picture before the house was all the way done, but You know, I have plenty of turning space in this kitchen, and you can see the door in the back. It's a low threshold, so just roll in, roll out. You know, my plan in medical school was to do my residency in that city where I had that house, which was in Louisville, Kentucky, but I didn't get accepted into Louisville and had to move to Michigan. So I had to sell that house and ended up, you know, having to do a bunch of accommodations again. This was in Livonia, Michigan here. I lived there for 1 year. So all that ramping and all those accommodations were done for 1 year before I moved to Philadelphia. Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was my first turkey after getting paralyzed. Had got a 4x4 wheelchair there. Ended up getting that thing stuck a bunch, but yeah, I was glad to get that turkey. Oh yeah, that's a picture of me being stuck. Oh yeah, there's my little, me and the turkey, and it's my little cousin Silas in the background there. I don't know if you could see him, but yeah, a deer, you know. I think I put these in here just to show I was moving on with my life, you know. I loved to hunt before, but it was much harder after the injury, you know. You're talking, I'd love to get in a tree stand, you know, like to put a lock-on stand up in the trees and get up there, you know, like 25 or 30 foot. But, you know, from here on out, I'm hunting out of like a car or on a four-wheeler or, you know, in a blind, much different than it used to be. This is a picture of me in Philadelphia. Philadelphia was the second part of my residency where I went to be a rehabilitation doctor. And yeah, that was a very tough city to get around in the wheelchair. And just accessibility was not, you know, it's a very old city. Just really tough to do anything. And just the amount of people that was there made it really competitive to, you know, just going to the grocery store, for example. I didn't do well in this place, and I ended up quitting, leaving the residency after about a year. And I didn't really know what I was going to do with my life after that. I kind of gave up on, you know, doing medicine anymore because the residency was so stressful. It's a lot of hours, you know. They want you working 60, 80 hours. It's really tough when you're in a wheelchair. I ended up moving out to Salt Lake City. Found this little apartment which was very cramped. I think I took this picture just to show kind of the way I was living then. I mean, it was hard to put anything away into rooms, so I kind of just had to leave everything out, leave one little, you know, track to go back and forth. I moved out to Salt Lake City just to learn how to get active again, basically. Learn how to exercise because, you know, I went to medical school right after my getting paralyzed and never learned how to be healthy, how to exercise. So while I was there, I learned how to ski. You know, this is a picture of me. I'm in the middle there in the orange coat, and there's the two older guys that, you know, are also paralyzed. This guy on the left, in the red, he's an ER doctor, retired, but he got paralyzed from a sledding accident. On the other side is my friend Alma. He was paralyzed in a motorcycle accident, but both those guys taught me how to ski, which is, you know, probably the biggest blessing in my life since being paralyzed. Then I found other things like mountain biking. These things, I can't stress how important they are after you have an injury like this, because you just don't get the same amount of exercise that you did before. And you're kind of left watching everybody do everything all the time, which sounds not so bad at first, it's kind of nice, but then, that stimulation of life, being able to, just jump under your car and fix something under your car, or hang something, on your wall, even mow your yard, all that's very compromised. So finding these recreational activities, at least gives you some type of stimulation, some type of dopamine release in your brain. So from Utah, I ended up hearing about occupational medicine. I didn't know it existed before, but I heard about this field you could go into for work injuries. And so I applied to the residency in San Francisco and got into an occupational medicine program there. And this is me with some of my co-residents. We were on a site visit here. We were at a lab looking at the way people go about their jobs in the laboratory. Just another skiing pic here. This is me buried in the snow that year. Oh yeah, and then while there in San Francisco, I started swimming in the bay. I'd always kind of dreamed of swimming Alcatraz. And so I went out and tried Alcatraz. This was my first day trying to swim Alcatraz. I needed to be, what would you call, repositioned that day, which means they threw me on the jet ski and got me a little bit closer to the opening because the current had taken me way past it. So I didn't finish it on my own that day, but since then I have finished it on my own two times. I've tried Alcatraz 9 times and completed the swim twice. I also swim the length of the Golden Gate Bridge, swim under the Golden Gate Bridge, which was, that was probably my favorite swim I've ever done. Yeah, and that's all the slides, but I think I've had a very rewarding life since that day. I've done a lot and overcame a lot, but I would not do this again if I had the choice. I mean, and they're looking back, there's I think a lot of things that led to me being in that position where a ditch collapsed on me. The main thing I think was we should have been using a trench box. We had, my dad and my brother were the OSHA competent people, and yes, I don't think that they graded the soil right, but I understand the mistake because it looked stable to me. It looked, it wasn't melty looking where we were digging that day. And then there's other things in your head, that you think in situations like that where like, oh, I'm not going to be in there long, or I can get out of the way. And I can tell you, you just don't have time to get out of the way. I never even saw the dirt. I would have only had to taken a couple steps to be out of the way, but I never even had a chance. I never even saw it. And I think I only lived because it was only a relatively small amount of dirt that fell on me, you know, a front backhoe bucket. That's about 3,000 pounds. I say relatively small. Most people that are in trench accidents don't survive. The OSHA investigator told me he had 70 cases of trench accidents under his belt. I think he had been in the business for, like 30 years or something. And I was the second person to live after those 70 cave-ins. That's not very good odds. So, I am lucky to be alive. I think if we'd all been a little more fearful, had a little bit more respect for what could happen, then that wouldn't have happened. But, we had been doing this our whole life, and when you do something, a task over and over every day for years, it's easy to lose respect for it. It's easy to get complacent. When I was a kid in shop, learning how to use the saws, I remember the teacher telling us that that we were probably going to be okay from it because we would be so worried about it our first few times learning how to use it that we wouldn't cut our finger off. He said it was more, the real danger was to someone like him who had been doing it for 20 or 30 years, because he gets comfortable with it and he loses his fear. So I think that's important to keep in mind, is just because you're doing something and seeing something every day, don't forget that could be the day that it kills you. So yeah, I think that's probably all I have to say. I appreciate you guys having me here, but I just want to stress that look out for yourselves out there. Be very, it's okay. As a doctor, when dealing with work injuries, when somebody comes in with a laceration or another injury, a broken arm or something like that, I tell people, that this injury is really a blessing, because it's going to keep them on their toes. It'll keep them from the big injury. And I guess my point is, if you're going to be complacent, do it around things that might hurt you but not kill you. These trenches will kill you. Don't ever be complacent around them. Always be worried. Always be nervous that that's going to happen. So, all right. Thanks again. Appreciate it. Yeah, I can take questions. Yeah. So I can, how about I take some questions? If anybody has any, I'd be happy to answer any.
How deep was the trench?
Trench was probably 6 to 8 feet deep total. So not really that deep. Yeah. And it was stair-stepped. I think it's really hard when people ask me how deep, and it's pretty hard to remember actually, but I feel like it was around 6 total. But those stair steps, I remember they were at least 4 foot wide. I don't remember how tall they were, but I'm guessing about 4 foot, maybe less. Yeah.
You mentioned that your parents were OSHA certified or knowledgeable, and I was just wondering, did you ever receive any kind of training as far as?
No OSHA. I not, no. I was I was more on the shovel, and yeah, they were the competent person? Is that what they're, yeah.
Any other questions?
Thanks for the share.
Yeah, my pleasure, yeah.
You're really inspiring. I just just wanted to say that.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Watching the tragedy that you went through to what you accomplished and achieved through the years, the perseverance, you're inspiring. Just wanted to say that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Can anybody relate to this gentleman's growing up, hunting, just gun in the back of the truck? Probably most of you. And you know, as I watch these slides, I see that, and I see this ramp in front of a house. Can any of you imagine having that? Going from your life now to that? And there's only one way we can keep from making that happen, is paying attention all the time, making sure we're doing things right. You guys have the knowledge, you have the ability, you have the tools. You just have to take the time. So we appreciate everybody here today and throughout this week. It's been a really, really good week. There's been a lot of activity here with a lot of good presentations. So please take it out to the field with you, and always pay attention. We need that focus all the time. So thank you again very much.
Yeah.
This is very, very moving, and you know, I look at you, I look at Sam, and I don't know that I could do that recovery part of it. So anyways, that's all I have. Anything else to close? Oh, okay.